Rec Room. I also really like looking at communities that exist here and seeing how we can help them grow and be more cohesive. That's what we did with both Rap Rumble and Sword Summit, and that's kind of what gears our game design. And then it's always trying to come up with a spin for the accepted way to build a game and try to like add a little bit of a spin to it, give it some new flavors, you know?
Awesome. Very cool. And Mamboss, how about you? Same question.
With our team, Discovery Inc., we like to get into a room all together with a big whiteboard and just go back and forth and argue about what game idea is cool, which game idea is not cool, and just see what ideas we can come and bring to the Rec Room that haven't been brought before. Which ideas can we mess with? And most of the time when we do the idea, sometimes it doesn't come out the way we want it, and we stop the idea and try to move on to something that would, and just keep going until we can find a game that suits new Rec Room players and what they would like.
Very cool. Well, Mamboss, kind of sticking with you, and we'll reverse again. Speaking of ideas, tell me some I'd say your most unique game mechanics or player interactions with your games that you've created and kind of how they contribute to just the overall experience of playing your games.
Well, one of our most popular experiences is the walking beam with the zombies, or the beams, and the way we're able to have them bounce towards you and come towards the player in a certain amount of waves, and it brings a more of a scary aspect to the game because they're giant beams coming at you, and I think that's one of our most cool things in Rec Room.
Awesome, heck yeah, I love walking beam.
I keep myself refuged in a building and just go at him with a machete through the slots in the window. Love that game.
That's the strat. That's the meta. Yeah.
Mortimer, how about you? Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of game mechanics, I mean, we're always trying to find new ways to do things. I think not everything lands. I will be the first to admit that. But Cannon Sim is one of our more recent ones. We tried doing something with building out extremely big numbers, for instance, making sure that those are properly supported, and seeing how people feel about going past the billion mark and so on. Other things is, I feel like a lot of our innovation happens a little bit behind the scenes, so it doesn't directly, it's not something that the players see directly.
In order to make it to midnight.
But
thumbs up or thumbs down.
They do appreciate it indirectly. So with any of our AI rooms like SCP-173, where we have kind of our own homebrewed AI system that I'm pretty proud of. It can do some cool things. It always catches people off guard and is smarter than people expect. So.
Awesome, thank you, Mortimer. Ender, how about you?
Yeah, sure.
Well, longtime fans of the McDonald's map will know of our hidden manager behind some hidden walls that's been there ever since 2018. It's been a part of the map that everyone's loved for the longest time. I included a free invention that people can purchase. It is over 100,000 owners. So not in as many rooms, but still, the number's pretty huge. And I think one aspect a lot of people like about what I did with Lily's Revenge was the multiple endings that came with it. Though it did spawn from the McDonald's map, but it's lost on a lot of the newer people that didn't experience the actual events as it happened. I know Harry Manlings was one of them. He came into the room and it was just chaos. No explanation, no context, just chaos. It was fun.
Awesome.
But I try to keep my rooms with stuff that's interactive and fun, usually.
Very cool. Skull, how about you, kind of finishing off the question?
Yeah, well, me and Stereotoast mostly do horror chasers. We do try to make each one of them kind of unique in their own way. For example, beneath the light bulb, that monster is made in a way where it cannot see you when you're not moving. In Polaroid, the monster is invisible to the naked eye, and you're equipped with a camera, and only then you can see it. In Security Breach Endo, the monster only moves when you look at it, and etc. We're trying to add a twist to each game, sort of Yeah.
I don't.
Very cool.
Hey.
It's got kind of the various SCP abilities that monsters have.
Yeah.
So, kind of speaking of, I want to say the various mechanics and challenges you guys have come up with, like, how do you strike a balance for knowing that you're going to have a bunch of people coming into your rooms and balancing it for new players versus, players that, they might already be great at understanding the meta of how to build this room. So, how do you balance gameplay for a wide audience? Start with you, Skull.
Well, I think it's really important to make it clear how your game works. I think that's like step number one. I don't know if I can think of much more than that.
Do you have like I want to say a little mini tutorial or any kind of descriptions that you kick your rooms off usually with?
Yeah, in Polaroid, for example, or in Beneath Light Bulb, we have like a little board that explains to you how the game works, kind of like in steps, like, how to win. Like, just like that.
Very cool. Ender, how about you?
Look at me. Wait. Hi.
And the question was again, sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry, I probably rambled there a little bit, but
Me?
how do you strike a balance between making your games challenging, but ensuring that it's fun for a wide audience?
It's difficult to really estimate because I have to also think about like the really, really left part of the group that's like, new players that's probably playing on mobile compared to the like high-rand PC players that's been playing for years and years and years. And I think best way to do it is just make it easy for them to find the instructions, understand the instructions, and how to execute the instructions. Making the level and the design in a simple, but for people that are more experienced, a more challenging way. I guess inviting for all, but hard to master, as the saying goes. Even though I messed that one up.
No, it's perfect.
I know.
Mortimer, same.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Keep going, Ender. No.
Oh,
Okay.
I was just gonna go back to an example of like when I first released Lily's Revenge. Thank you. When I first released Lily's Revenge, the hardest thing wasn't the bosses; it was the vents. I kept getting comments after comments, people getting lost in the vents. So eventually, I ended up having to put dots on the map. And even then, not everyone really knows how to read the map that well. Not everyone knows how to. So I think that's like one of the hardest hang-ups of that map is the vents, and why some people don't really enjoy that route as much as they should.
Did you just a quick follow-up when you're kind of looking for feedback on your room? So you've already published it, and you're going to update it based on feedback. Do you use the room comments? Like, is that the best place you get feedback, or somewhere else?
Yes, usually. And when it comes to human nature, when humans want to compliment on something, sometimes they don't say it. When humans want to complain about something, they're going to complain about it. So the comments are usually filled with, if they spot any bugs, like, "Oh, I was pushed out of bounds," and fix it up however it needs to be.
Totally.
Or if you feel that something could be improved.
Yeah. And you'd recommend for any aspiring creators out there really to check their room comments and stuff just to ensure that, as more and more people play their games, they kind of get fine-tuned for a wider audience, I assume then.
Yeah, a lot of it's going to be spam, a lot of it's going to be nonsense, but dig through the diamonds in the rough. You'll find some good critiques and ways to improve your games.
Ender, please. Ender.
Awesome. Mortimer, same question for you.
Yeah, well, I think the holy grail is always that inherent tutorial, like the tutorial that you don't know that you're in. That is like the holy grail. It's very hard to pull off. So the second best option is always like trying to make players kind of stumble through the first game loop, right? Allow them to go through that without frustration. And that's when they start to get it. So don't like try to make your experience or don't try to like block players from making mistakes in their first like playthrough, and don't frustrate them with those mistakes through their first playthrough. And I think one of the most valuable tools you have as a creator when you're making these games and you're trying to balance them for a multitude of players is really getting some playtests early on in your game development. get a mix of players into your room just to see kind of what the sticking points are. And if you find yourself explaining to people what the game is, what to do, then that means that maybe you need to go back to the drawing board a little bit to rework some things. And definitely listen to all the feedback that you think is, maybe you want to dismiss it. I think that was our biggest mistake with Canon Sim, is that one of the bits of feedback was people didn't like our accuracy upgrade. The accuracy allowed you to hit targets more consistently the higher you upgraded it. But a lot of our playtesters, they said like, this is kind of frustrating. So we tried adjusting that like curve a little bit, make it upgrade a little faster, but it always felt really frustrating to the players. Eventually just like replaced it with a system for crit chance instead. So you can always hit the target, but sometimes you get a little bit of a reward. And like those little bits of feedback can really help with getting players through the game loop a little bit better. And that's for like new players and experienced players as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Mortimer. Yeah, and Man Boss, for you, same question. I'll just repeat it for everybody, which is, how do you strike a balance between making games challenging and ensuring that it remains enjoyable for a wide range of players?
Ender, please look at me. Ender, please.
Okay. Sorry. For us to make it enjoyable. Sorry, I'm having more of a little brain fart moment at the time. Well,
not a worry.
So when we put them in the game, we like to let them wander around and try to solve it for themselves, to give the aspect of like, this is an open world, we don't know where we're at, we don't know what we're doing, let's try to discover and find out this huge world and how we can play it. Like a great example with that is The Walking Bean and Detroit, or even Blackwater. Most of all of our games is open world. So they have to find out how to do it, and it gives them a set of accomplishment with, like, yes, I did it, and I figured it out on my own. Sometimes we'll have a text here and there on how to play the game, but most of the time we have them discovering it, which is in our name, Discovery Inc. We try to have them discover the map.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very cool. I always enjoy in Walking Bean just kind of that you have a different experience in each building as well. So it's cool to be able to kind of make that progression. Okay, next question. I'm going to go back to you, Skull. So for narrative-driven games, what techniques do you use to convey a story, and how do you ensure that players stay engaged throughout that story, even specifically between multiple sessions of play?
Well, I've never really made any narrative games myself. I don't know how I can really, I gotta think.
I'd say even just the, I want to say progression of gameplay in your room.
Oh, you're talking about Drake?
Right, yeah. Well, I feel like it's important to give the player a reason to, keep playing, obviously. If you want a good progression, you gotta have like actual useful rewards and stuff. I think make it to midnight is a pretty good example. All those power-ups you get from like just playing. So yeah.
Awesome. Ender, same question for you. Just kind of how do you keep players engaged throughout your story, and especially between multiple sessions of play?
I'm semi in the opposite boat on both ends to Skull, as I've made a narrative game, but I've not really made a game like he's created where there's progression, where you actually like get levels up and you have a reason to come back, you have a reason to like get more points, unlock more stuff, get more power-ups and all that. With Lily's Revenge, a lot of people became invested with the stories because it first all started when randomly out of nowhere the McDonald's started taking off. I noticed in the subscribers there was a lot of people that liked the indie horror stuff or just indie games in general. So I thought, let's just plop a ghost to McDonald's and see where it goes. And I just grew and grew onto the story, making sure add a little bit of twist, add a little bit of stuff that makes sense, and I just slowly composed the story and then released the game. And a lot of people from then just immediately it soared, went super far. A lot of people love Lily. A lot of people love the multiple endings. A lot of people are waiting for the sequel, which I'm hoping with Limits V2 because holotars are expensive. And that's the reason why Lily's Revenge is so simple, because so many holotars. But with Limits V2, so many holotars, so much potential. I'm hoping for it. Please, Rec Room, any day now.
Well, it's coming soon, I promise. Ender, quick follow-up, like, how many sessions do you think the average player in Lily's Revenge goes through before they get to an ending? Like, how many tries do you think it takes before they make it all the way through?
For more of the younger crew, and funny enough, my cousin was actually scared of the first hallway sequence with Lily, and she could not get past it because she was just deadly scared of it chasing her. So I'd say for most, probably a few playthroughs, few iterations, especially when you have to play the 2 endings to go to the 1 ending.
Awesome.
And I'd say that's probably what contributed a little to it getting a lot of views as well, was just people coming back to it. And the password system was a saving grace to those that wanted to return to their favorite parts.
Awesome, that makes sense. One reason I just wanted to ask this was, you know, if you make a long narrative story, it's always tricky to set up games where people are going to come back. They're going to continue experiencing where they left off, and so, you know, the password system is a great way to do that.
Yeah, and I've thought about that myself, like, why do people keep coming back to Lily's Revenge? It should be getting old by now a little bit, right? And I know it's, like, terrible for me to say that, but, like, a lot of people still love the game and still go back to it. I'm just surprised. Like, and I guess it's just, like, artists' view of their own work, but I don't think it's that good. Hot take, but I don't think it's that good. It was a great experiment,